Professor, I got a promotion, I'm so pleased. Show me the money. Okay, welcome to Secondary Education, the talk. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Grant Kleeman, who regrets that he can't be here to talk to you. Grant is actually the director of our teacher education program. I'm here on his behalf as the coordinator of undergraduate studies. What my role here is to help students work through their programs, especially if they've got complicated programs. And I also help students who are having difficulties, at risk, all that kind of thing, work through those problems and issues. So that's part of my role here, as well as teaching in the primary program, but I also do some work in the secondary program. The reason being that I'm actually a secondary science teacher as well as being a primary teacher. Years ago I did what was called a middle school course, and so I'm actually qualified to do both. It's a hard thing to do these days because it's either one path or the other. But I am working with a couple of students on something special that will allow them to do both. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You're here because you want to be secondary science teachers, right? Yes, okay. Secondary science, English, geography, maths, whatever. All right. Okay, nearly had a few more science people there, I hope. Okay. Well, these are some of the things I'm going to talk about. Why teach? Why Macquarie? What can I teach? What are the areas? When do I start teaching? What are the programs? Why teach? There's a lot of reasons why people teach, but most of the reasons why people teach are they want to make a difference. That's a big thing. They've been through an educational system and they were inspired by that system and they want to make a similar difference, or they've been through an education system, they didn't think it cut it and they want to be better. There's two reasons I often hear from students, and those are the main ones. Often students have an interest in a discipline like science or mathematics or English, and they just want to share that with generations, and that's a wonderful aim to have as well. But whatever it is, whatever the reason is, the reason why you're doing education, secondary education, you're actually there to change lives, and you're there to make a difference. And what you're actually doing is actually shaping this country. And both Julia Gillard, our Prime Minister, and Peter Garrett, our Minister for Education, have both recognised that role of teachers in their recent speeches to various forums. That teaching is really important and the future of the country depends on it. There are a number of reasons why people teach, just in the immediate sense. It's a very satisfying job and you can often see the results of your teaching. You might have given a wonderful lesson one day and then students come back to you a few days later for the next commerce period or whatever else, and they've demonstrated some wonderful understanding in their written pieces or whatever else, and they couldn't have gotten that understanding without you scaffolding the learning and helping them through. That's an enormous satisfaction. Teachers are very satisfied people. I know there's been some research saying that teachers are not satisfied and teachers just say, well, I've done that research too. I'm one of the contributors there, and my teachers in my study across Australia are very satisfied people. They get frustrated sometimes and there's a degree of stress, but hey, what job doesn't have its frustrations and its stresses? So teaching, highly satisfying, it's intrinsically satisfying, and often you get the students coming back to you and saying, how you going, miss? I really like what you taught the other day. You do get kids saying that to you. You might also get a real inspirational moment where a student comes up to you and says, oh, you know how we were talking about those moral issues with animal protection? Well, I actually found something on the internet. Can I show this to the class? That's when you jump out of your skin, because all of a sudden you've actually promoted someone to be a lifelong learner. They're learning outside of. And that's wonderful. You have those satisfactions. You have those experiences. Yes, you have frustrations, but you're working with kids, right? So it's going to be like that sometimes, behaviour and all the rest of it. But the successes will often outweigh and will keep you going and keep you committed to the profession. And lifelong learning, what I was just talking about, that child, a lot of the emphasis has been on developing our people, Australians, to become people who are self-sufficient, who don't need to do any more formal learning once they've left uni or whatever, schooling, okay? Now that's not entirely true. We always go back to do some formal, but we also need people who can actually learn by themselves and learn independently, not be dependent on formal, because sometimes you just can't get that. Think about the way the world has globalised over the last 2 decades. Think about the way information changes, and the fact is that information rarely stays static or the same, even over a year. Okay? 10 years ago we were talking about Pluto being a planet in the solar system. Now it's just been demoted a couple of years ago. I'm sad for Pluto, but that's the way education is, that's the way information is. It changes all the time. So you have to be able to not just present information, but deal with problematic changing information. And that's one of the challenges, but also one of the joys. You're teaching these students to be able to do that. I think it's thrilling. There's an opportunity, and there's an opportunity to do different things in the classroom. You're not just doing the same thing all the time. I think a lot of teachers get their energy from trying out different things and being innovative, which you can do in schools. You can try a few different things, experiment with your teaching style, see if it works, doesn't work, try something different. And that's encouraged by the people above you. Try, get these, if you want to develop these children's understandings and there's a novel way of doing it, do it. As long as it's ethically appropriate. Okay. Why Macquarie? A lot of differences. We are different to the other places. You might notice that already, but we are different. We actually are proud of that Macquarie difference. One of the major differences is the scholar-teacher model that we promote here. What does that mean? It means that for the first couple of years, you actually won't be in the classroom, but you'll be learning a lot of theory and actually thinking through theoretical approaches. And having done that, then trying to work out, well, in the real world, how might this play out? What are some of the situations that this theory applies to, and how might it impact on learning or the delivery of curriculum or pedagogy? You spend 2 years doing that, and slowly but surely you develop a philosophy of teaching, and everyone's tends to be different, but you develop an idea of how students learn and how teachers should teach. By the time you get to the prac, which is professional experience, which is in the 3rd year, you don't see the classroom until the 3rd year, you actually come in with some knowledge of education, how children learn and all the rest. You don't feel so nervous about being in the classroom because you have a fair bit of understanding. But that's not all that's involved in the scholar-teacher model. That's the scholar bit, the you being someone who can actually analyse what's going on in the classroom and reflect on it. There's also the fact that you will know who your supervisor is. And I know for a fact from the other unis, because I've been at them and worked at others, and experienced, of course, education at other places, that you don't often know who your supervisor is. That can be a very unsettling and nervous thing. Who's this person down the back watching me teach on my prac? And of course we all know what anxiety can do to performance. People don't do often the best things, opening up to a lot of mistakes and the rest of it. You actually have a relationship with your supervising lecturer. The method lecturer, for example, if you're an English person, you're studying English, teaching English, it's the English method person that's going to come out and visit you in the schools. And you already know who that person is because they've been working with you in the units for methodology. And that's a wonderful thing. That sort of sense of the unknown and the judgmental thing, that's gone. You just get in there and you teach. The other thing we find with our undergraduates is that when they come into the classroom, they're a little bit more confident. Maybe a bit cocky, because I know how this all works, but they soon learn the realities of the classroom, but they're more informed about it. And that's why we call the scholar-teacher model, because they're coming in with theoretical perspectives, and the moment they're in the classroom, they're analysing that experience, reflecting on, okay, what theory does this relate to? What does this model say I can do about this particular situation in terms of behaviour? Oh, I remember John talked about Glasser and choice theory. Maybe I should try some of those approaches. Do you see what I mean? We give you enough to be able to actually walk into a classroom with both pistols, sort of thing. That's probably a bad, very bad example, but stream of consciousness, I'm sorry. Development program of professional experience is very much what it is. You do 15 days in the 3rd year and you do the other 45 days in the 4th year. Developmental, because we start you off just observing the classroom for a couple of days, then you start teaching small groups, then lessons. By the time you finish your 15th day in the 3rd year, you'll actually should be teaching a whole day. Okay. In the 4th year, you hit the ground running with a couple of days of observation, then you're teaching. And in the second semester of the fourth year, we'd expect that you'd be teaching all day, every day. And if you're a two-subject person, that's fantastic because you're definitely going to have lots of work to do. If you're an English history person, you'll be teaching history lessons and English lessons and maybe even doing other lessons too, if they want to, if you want to. So there's a lot of practice there. The thing is, every time you're doing prac, you're also coming back to uni and you're deconstructing that experience and talking about it. We believe that's an excellent kickboard for professional reflective practice. So, this is an example from my prac group, my professional experience group. I have 25 lovely cherubs in the primary program. And yesterday, an issue came up about lining up outside the classroom. We had that issue came up as an organisational issue. And we talked through the whole thing. We joined out, we shared our experience. What happens when kids aren't supposed to line up outside the classroom or inside the classroom or outside and ready to come in? What are the differences in the children's behaviour in the classroom as a result? And we found, of course, the unsettledness and everything. So then we talked about what's the good practice that you've seen getting children settled from outside and play to inside and class and learning, the transition. And some students came up with wonderful experience that they'd seen on prac that the others could then learn from. And I also put in my 2 cents with my experience because I can't keep my mouth shut, but I do share some techniques and things, getting children to order after. So those are the kinds of things we deal with, the real issues. And we always pick on something that goes on in the prac. It might be a particular behaviour. Some student might be challenged by working with an Asperger's child in the classroom, be sharing that, and we'll sort of give them a hand, give them ideas. I'll bring to the table some of my best experiences and learning about it, and the whole group benefits. And we're sort of reflecting on the issues, deconstructing the issues, learning about the issues. And so yes, there's practice built on theory, and that's important. What subjects can you teach? These are the first subjects that we offer. So we've got economics and business studies. They're usually done together, you don't do one or the other. English, geography, history, languages and mathematics. If you are doing geography or history, we want you to do a second teaching area for sure. We want that because we want to increase your chances of employability. So a lot of our history people do English as a second teaching area, or society and culture. And society and culture can be quite a joy. You do a couple of anthropology units, a couple of sociology units, or you might do an anthropology, a couple of sociology and a psych unit. There's a number of things you can do for society and culture. A lot of fun, and you get a very diverse background in doing that subject as a second area. Languages we offer. A lot of people, actually going back to history, a lot of people do history and geography together. That seems to work quite well. But getting back to languages, we offer Chinese, Japanese, we offer Italian, French, German, Russian, Croatian, Greek. I've maybe missed a couple more, okay. The one thing we suggest with languages is that if you are doing an Asian language, that you might do a couple of first-year units in a European language. And that's only just to bolster your chances of employment and your versatility as a languages teacher. It is not uncommon for someone who has majored in French to be asked, well, we've got a space here to do Italian for 2 days, can you do it? And, you do it, so it's good to have that background. More importantly, having an Asian language, if you're doing European languages, is vital because, of course, Japanese and Chinese are quite popular in schools. Mathematics and science people tend to be very unique in our case, not unpopular, but just unique in that they very rarely have a second teaching area because their programs are so chock full as it is that they usually can't fit a second teaching area inside the 4-year degree. Science particularly, in science, half your degree has to be science units, designated science units almost. 42 credit points on it. So as well as doing your major in science, which might be, for example, chemistry, you also need to do some studies of biology, earth sciences and physics so that you can actually be a well-rounded Year 7 to 10 science teacher, as well as then having the privilege later on perhaps of teaching your major, which was chemistry in Year 11 and 12. A lot happens in Year 11 and 12. Some people who are chemistry majors end up having to take a biology class for 1 day a week or something, or a couple of periods, right? That sort of versatility happens. So the BSc debate, which is what science people would do, allows for that versatility, allows it to happen. You're not disadvantaged in any way. Mathematics usually do a BSc debate, but can do a BA debate. Second teaching areas, these are areas that you cannot, some of the areas you can't do on your own. For example, drama and ICT computers you can't do as a first teaching area, has to be a second teaching area. Society and culture and legal studies the same. However, most of the units, most of the areas that have been called first teaching areas, except for maths and science, can become second teaching areas. All you do is less of the undergraduate units in that area, and then do the methodology units. But you could be an English drama teacher. You could be a geography and ICT computers teacher. Right? Yeah, there's a bit of range there. English as a second language is not so much a teaching area as a specialisation, and anyone doing English as a second language, ESL, is encouraged to have, say, English or languages or something like that as a first teaching area, but you can have other areas as well. It's just that the linguistics units and that do sort of cooperate really well in the program. When do you start teaching? I have mentioned this already, but yeah, third year, 15 days. So you'll do 8 days in the first semester and 7 days in the second. Doesn't seem like much. A bit of work around it. Sometimes there is assignments based on that practicum as well, so that can be a bit fun. But yeah, in the fourth year, you'll do your 45-day placement across the 2 semesters. You'll usually be in 2 different schools. You'll start 1 day a week, and then we'll encourage you to do a 2-week block, maybe in April or maybe in June, and then the same in the second semester, a 2-week block perhaps in September or perhaps in November. But we do encourage people to do blocks. It's really the only way you can get that continuation. What programs? There are 3 undergraduate programs in secondary. I will talk about those. And the graduate program, which is if you already have a degree, and so long as you have a significant number of units in a teaching area, you can then qualify for the Graduate Diploma of Education. It can be done 1 or 2 years. Okay, and you just need that minimum 6 units related to the secondary teaching subject, usually with first, second and third year, like a sequence of units going up to final year. What if I don't get offered a place in a government-funded, like a HEX place at Macquarie? Well, there are a number of things. First of all, most people apply for non-award entry. That's for people who have a UAC that's 50 or above. Okay, you do 4 units in a period of 1 calendar year, or in 1 semester. You pass all of them, you get a grade point average of 2.0, and that gives you automatic access to the BA program. Okay, and BA to BEd program. You get automatic access to it, which means the following semester or the following year, depending on how you did the units, you just go straight in. There's no formal application process or hurdles to jump over. And that's a good thing. It's fee-based, so you pay full fees, about $1,500 per unit. So it can be expensive. The way to go, Centre for Open Education actually have a tent out here in the main courtyard, and you can go and talk to them if that's what you're thinking. There's also the Jubilee Scheme, those people who had no HSC but sort of had life experiences that would help them along, and maybe done some TAFE study or whatever, or have done the HSC but it wasn't really a great experience and they have done some work in the meantime or some study, and it will allow them to sort of have the experience of being successful here. You can do that too, and that's on our website. We have a Jubilee website that you can actually look at and see what the application process is for that. Don't forget bonus points. I know that some of you already know about the bonus points, the academic advantage system that we have. For example, you get a band 6 in advanced English. That means you get 3 bonus points towards your ATAR. So if you've got an ATAR of say 72, the 3 bonus points you get from band 6 in English, which means you get a 75, which may allow you to then move into the BA DBEd. And it's only for the BA DBEd, so it's the credit points go for the choices that you make. Band 5 in geography, 1 bonus point towards the ATAR and the BA DBEd. I've put the website there, but the easiest way to find out about Academic Advantage is actually to go to our website, in the search term put bonus points, and it'll take you straight to the Academic Advantage website. Okay, and yes, getting ready for enrolment. On our website, under downloads, you can actually download the secondary guide. It's a fantastic document in that all of the majors and the suggested programs for all of the majors are in that book, but also describes each and every degree that we offer and the graduate diploma. Here's some examples of what those back pages look like that show you if you're doing a major in, for example, ancient history, because you want to be a history teacher, then there's a suggested program there. Same for all of the others. There's a couple of geography options, because there are 2 geography majors you can have, human and the other. So we give you options for that as well. And don't forget to have a look at our handbook too for unit descriptions. More information, there's a yellow facts sheet for the secondary programs, the BA DBET and the BSc DBET, and there's a green one for the graduate programs over at the desk at E7B. And of course, don't forget to go to our website again, just a bit of a plug, you'll find out who we are and what we offer. Thank you very much. As Grant wanted to say, you too can make a difference. Thank you for coming and listening. I wish you all the best today.